Coaches, this is Mike Siler, Director of Coaching Infinity Soccer. This is kind of our first session. Wanted to take time right now as we head into our seasons to talk a little bit about defense. We're going to talk a little bit about defensive shape, first defender, second defender, and coverage. And we're going to talk a little bit about what I refer to as a defensive V and how compaction comes into play. We'll talk about that from a defensive perspective and the inverse of that, as well as how offense kind of pertains to that as well. First thing I'd like to talk about is the shape of the defense and a way that we can train that with our teams. Now, you're going to have conversations with your teams about first defender and second defender, and we'll run some trainings that help illustrate that and show the players exactly how to work that system. But when we're talking about defensive shape in general, and we're trying to teach who's the first defender and the second defender and trying to work in coverage and compaction all into one, there's a simple way to do it. What I like to do is I like to purchase a 100-foot rope, and you can get this for pretty cheap, 250-foot lengths or a 100-foot length at Harbor Freight for a few dollars, or at Walmart as well. They sell nylon ropes that have carabiners on them. You can clip them together, but you'll need about 100 feet. You could do it with 50 feet as well too, and just make a smaller example. But what I'd like to show you here is you can see 4 defenders in a line with an attacker up here. What I do with the rope is I take that rope and I have all the defenders grab the rope, so they're equal distant from each other, and they each hang onto the rope. And what we're showing as an illustration, we're going to have the first defender apply pressure to the ball. So as this first defender steps up, they're going to do a couple things. They're going to apply immediate pressure to the ball and try to delay the attack. They may also look at the player and try to isolate them from the team. So if this player had teammates on this side of the ball, out here, we may want to take our defense and turn our posture so we're rotated a little bit this way. So we're trying to isolate them away from that teammate, limiting their support that they can serve. We're also going to channel that defender to their weaker foot. If there's no teammates to isolate, we're going to try to push them to their weaker foot, which in this case I'm assuming is going to be their left. But what we're going to use the rope for is we're going to use this as an illustration on how to play compact and how to cover. As this player steps up, what happens is the rope becomes tighter, which forces this player to move in. It also forces this player to move in, and it forces this player to move in because they're all tied together. So what I like to do is I like to have my team sit around the arc at half field. I like to take my 4 or maybe my 6 defenders with my subs, and I like to rotate them through this so they each get a chance to see exactly how this works. Then I take the striker, I'll move him to a different angle. I'll grab the striker and put him out here. Have every defender regroup to where they are with the rope equal distant. Slide him up just a little bit. And then I have this person apply the pressure. Now in this case, the outside defender is going to isolate them to the outside of the field and use this line as another defender to contain this player. When he steps up, the rope gets tighter, forces this player to move in, forces this player to move in, and forces this player to move in. So using that long rope is a very simple way to make your defense work as a unit. Now obviously in a game we're not going to be able to tie these guys together, but if we run through it in practice with that rope and we have all different angles exposed to them, move this player to this side, move this player to here or here, maybe we put him here and the defensive shape changes. This person goes here, tries to push a little bit to the outside with a curved run, forces this guy to come in, forces this one to come in, and this one who'd be on the end would also have to shift in and play a little bit tighter shape because of the rope tying them together. So now let's go back and talk a little bit about how defensive compaction and shape overall kind of pertains to this. So moving beyond the rope example, next thing I'm going to talk about is what I refer to as a defensive V, or compaction, and how that comes into play. So once again, I'm going to space my defenders out somewhat equal distant and just move our attacker up the field quite a bit. Let's pull our attacker up here so the pressure's kind of far away. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw 2 lines on the field. I'm going to start here at the goalpost, maybe a little bit beyond the goalpost. I'm going to draw a line out probably about right there. That works. And let's draw another line out here, right here. So now you can see we have a nice V shape on our field. Now what the V illustrates is what is important to us to defend. In defense, we can be outnumbered many times, but if we play defensive tactically well, we're in good shape. But we need to defend what's important and not defend what isn't. So what we're going to do is draw this V out here. Next thing I'm going to show you, this is a plot map of the World Cup 2014. All 171 goals scored here. If you look at it, if you were designing a defense, where would you want to put your defense? In the middle of the field, because that's where almost all the goals are scored from, the middle of the field. I can slide this down to make sure this fits in our video. But you want to defend the middle. This is what's important. Now, youth soccer, if you plotted this, it would be even more truncated. You probably would eliminate a lot of these far out shots. But everything comes from the middle, and that's what's important to us. Even if they send a ball to the outside of the field, they still have to cross it to the middle to score. So we want to defend what's important. So back to this V shape. As the pressure moves up the field and gets closer, the defenders are going to retract. And as they retract, this is where defensive compaction comes in, because the defenders defend what's important, and once again, that's in our V shape. It's the middle we're concerned about. As they get closer to the goal, the defenders become more compact, staying within that V shape. And we leave the flanks outside. This is real estate we don't care about defensively. If somebody's out there in this area and out here on the flank, they're not a high concern to us. We're concerned about the middle. So on the outside here, we can play defense a little bit more passively and just contain and only attack the ball when we're confident we can win it, but we don't have to do any hard challenge here. When we're in the middle, it's a little bit different ball game. You also have a goalkeeper who can cover the space behind the defenders as they get closer to the goal. But you can see how the defensive V shape works in compaction. Often in a game, you may find your outside defender retreats this way because they're told that they're the outside fullback. And we want to fix that, because by doing this, we leave our middle too exposed, and that's what's important. So instead of having this linear retraction, we're going to have a defender pull back here. Even if a winger makes the run outside, the defender will contain, just passively contain, and we just get compact among our three. But we always make sure we're playing a very compact defense. So now let's turn this conversation into the opposite of defense. Let's talk about offense, because we want to be an attacking team. We don't want to be a keep-away club. We want to be an attacking team that scores a lot of goals. In doing that, I also draw a shape like this with my strikers. Let me clear some of these out so you can take a look. I draw a shape whenever I do 8v8 or a full field scrimmage. And what I do is I take lines and I draw them about right here, about the edge of the 18. And I draw them like this. I put cones. I apologize, I don't draw lines in the field while we're practicing. But I put cones when we're practicing. And I cut the corners of the field off. I draw them like this. I don't know if you can see on the top of the screen there. But I draw cones like this and I play with the cones on the field. And if you're processing in your mind what these lines represent, they represent the corners, or what I would call low value real estate. We do not want wingers in this area because you don't score goals from there. You can cross a ball from there, but that's it. This is not a goal scoring area. So for example, if this was my winger running down the field, I don't want this straight line run. Never do we want them to be making straight line runs. They're too predictable. It's hard to stay on sides. It's hard to receive the ball. And once they get beyond that line and they're in this area, they're a low value to us because they're not a shooting threat. Instead, I put those lines down to have my strikers run and then cut in to stay in the middle. These give them guidelines in training to know where to be until we can take that off. But we want to make sure we don't have linear runs. Also, what I like to do is I often stagger my right-footed players on the left side of the field and my left-footed players on the right. This is an offensive move. If you imagine this player attacking, right-footed players will like to cut to the inside of the field because the ball's on their right foot and it gives them a good shooting angle. Left-footed players the same way. If you put a right-footed player on the outside of the field, typically what they're going to want to do is run linear. And they'll want to cross the ball with their right foot because that's what's comfortable to them. So often I like to switch those players, right-footed on left, left-footed on right. So I'm becoming more of a shooting team because I want to be in the business of scoring goals, not in the business of crossing balls. You heard me mention a little bit about shooting angle. So let's talk a little bit about what shooting angle means. Goalkeepers understand this concept extremely well, but let's imagine the ball is from right here. So I'm going to draw two lines out. Notice I'm drawing them from the goalpost, and I draw them out here. Now let's rotate that field a little bit and take a look. What we're talking about now is shooting angle. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, pull out just a sec. Imagine I have a goalkeeper in there. If you look at this and the ball is at this point at the top of the arc, this is what we're referring to as shooting angle. The goalkeeper has effectively closed off the goal because the angle is so small from that perspective. You can see the goalkeeper has literally covered line to line. This is what we mean by shooting angle. There is very little or bad shooting angle out here. So a goalkeeper is very comfortable. In fact, a goalkeeper doesn't even play the shot. They actually open themselves up here to cover the cross because the shooting angle is so bad at this point. To put that in perspective, let's draw some new lines over here. And what we're going to do is draw a different shooting angle. We'll put it more in the middle of the field, about right here. Let's pull our green line out. There. And now you can see from this shooting angle, we can slide these guys out of the way, if that helps. But you can see the goalkeeper cannot cover post to post from this shooting angle, where he could on this one from the side, because the more angle you have, the harder it is for the goalkeeper to work. That's once again why offensively I draw those lines to cut off the corners, and I tell the strikers, we don't go here unless we have to. Now there's a time to do that, obviously. We can make a player run inside and then pass the ball to the outside for an overlapping player, and we can get crosses off there, an effective way to score. But I would rather have this field position here, and this is what we want to fight for as strikers. Anything in this range, we have a green light to shoot because we have a great shooting angle. So anyway, hope this discussion helps. Talks a little bit about defensive compaction, how that relates to the offense as well, and talks a little bit about training defensive shape by using that rope illustration. I'll look forward to working with you guys throughout the season and the summer, and we'll spend a lot of time working about defensive strategies, defensive compaction, and training your teams on how that works to work as a system, as well as talking about the strikers on what strategic runs we want to be, because we want to define ourselves as a club that scores a lot of goals. Right now, we're a little bit more of a keep-away, possession-oriented club, and we're going to open that up and try to develop a little bit more offensive opportunities. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email right now is mesgktrainer@gmail.com. You can find that on the Infinity website. Feel free to get in contact with me if you have any questions throughout the season regarding defense or offense that I can assist with.